productivity is really not about speed. It's really about scheduling and communicating when you're doing comprehensive exams.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to another episode of Growth in Dentistry. I'm Katie Polson, and if you are a repeat listener, thank you so much. So glad to have you here again. If you're new to our show, welcome. The goal with these episodes particularly is to give you 30 minutes of actionable advice that you can take to your practice. Maybe you're listening on your way to work or on your way back, and just that you can take some small bit of advice and apply it to your practice, whether it be something new that you've heard, or maybe you've heard it a dozen times and now this time is the time that you're going to implement it. Either way, we're so glad to have you here. If you are a fan of Facebook, if you're on Facebook still, we have a great dental intelligence podcast community there. Come join like-minded data nerds and come learn from one another. And then also, this podcast is brought to you by Dental Intelligence. And because of that, we have a great giveaway for those of you that aren't customers or want to kind of see how that would apply to your practice. You can go to get.dentalintel.net/podcast to get a $50 gift card when you complete a demo. And I'll make sure that link gets in our show notes. And without further ado, we'll get right to the topic here. We're going to introduce our wonderful guest today, Dr. Bruce Baird of Productive Dentist Academy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Katie.
We're lucky, really lucky to have you. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I've gotten a chance to talk to you a little bit before, and I'm excited to get into the topic today. So tell the listeners today, for those that may not know you, a little bit about yourself and what you're doing currently.
Well, I've been a dentist now for 42 years, so time flies when you're having fun. And I love dentistry. I went in the military when I got out of dental school back in 1980. Spent 4 years in the service, and then got out and opened up private practice here in Granbury, Texas. It's a thriving metropolis of about 7,000 people, but the county, we have about 50,000 in the county. When I first came to Granbury, there were only 4 dentists in town. Today, there's 39 dentists.
Oh, wow.
If you can believe that. But and over the years, somebody told me years ago, if you enjoy teaching, if you love teaching, be the best at whatever it is that you want to be, and then help others do that. And kind of my goal has always been to help others reach their goals. And usually what I've found is that I have a blast doing it, and so do the others. So I started Productive Dentist Academy 18 years ago, be 19 years in April, and started with just 8 of my buddies, 8 dentists, and we had a blast. And it was really literally about how to increase your productivity in your dental practice. It's grown into much more than that over the years. It was myself and 1 employee back then. Today we have about 35 employees, and it's turned into its own animal. So and I really enjoy it. We have a marketing company, we have a consulting company that travels around the country. We have consultants all over the country, and we have seminars that we do 2 to 3 times a year. We just did one weekend before last, and we had about 180 dentists and their teams in Dallas, and had a blast there. In 2008, we had the big financial collapse, and I started noticing that patients were having, patients that ordinarily would say yes to treatment, all of a sudden weren't saying yes anymore. And I began looking, my partner, Jeff Buski, had said something like, do you think we could finance orthodontics if we got like $2,000 down? And I really started thinking about that. And I said, well, how much do we have in it? Meaning, how much does it cost us to do ortho? He said about $415. And I said, well, how much do we charge? He goes, $6,000. And I said, man, seems like we could. And then I started thinking about CERAC. I have done a lot of those, and they're $35 a block, and I'm charging $1,400 for a crown. Seems like I should be able to finance people if they didn't qualify for conventional third-party financing. So I started a company called Compassionate Finance. We had it running we're still running, but Last year in June, we sold to private equity, a KKR, one of the largest private equity software private equity companies in the world. And I'm still working with them. And as a matter of fact, I'm headed to Denver next week to spend a little time up there with them. And the rest has been just working with dentists, helping dentists, and just trying to teach nothing necessarily new, but trying to teach what we actually do in practice to other dentists. And that's kind of been my sweet spot for the last 30 years. So I enjoy it.
Well, I can tell, I can just see in your eyes how much you love this profession and how much you love the people that you work with. So that's really awesome. And I love that advice that you got about, if you want to teach something that you love. Cause I definitely, cause then there's the other philosophy is those that can't do teach.
That's right.
And I don't like that one because I've been a teacher of dental hygiene and I feel like I can do the work, but I just like you. I love to teach, and so that's why I'm here as well. So I love that. That's really great. So this topic we're going to talk about today, and we've been talking about this month, and I've said it before, is not a very sexy topic. Scheduling is like really kind of, but it doesn't take a lot of what do I say? There's not a lot that can ruin my day as a hygienist or as a provider, as a doctor, as quickly as a messed up schedule. Like it really can take you from having a great day or to having a horrible day or to like being productive, right? Or not being productive. So it really is kind of an important topic. It's one that like schedules, we're talking about schedules, but I'm excited to get your opinion on it. And there's a couple different philosophies and I don't know a lot about a lot of them. I mean, I worked in a practice that only did block scheduling. That was all we did. And it was based off of the price of a treatment. But other than that, like there might be some other philosophies that are better or not. I don't know. So let's get into kind of some of, I guess, the theories of scheduling and what you prefer and what you recommend to dentists on how to schedule. So,
well, being, kind of starting the Productive Dentist Academy years ago, what I realized is most dentists, if I ask a dentist, do you run behind during the day? About 98% say yes, and they all schedule very similarly, which is a good friend of mine is one who developed that years and years ago, Tom McDougall here in Dallas, was the X's and slashes, meaning you have your doctor's time, you have your assistant time. Even Dentrix has perfect day scheduling so that you would look at it and it would say XXX in this chair, then XXX over here, and that's doctor's time. So you never want to overlap doctor's time. And that's been kind of the taught philosophy for a long time. Then came out, oh, we're going to have blocks in the morning or blocks in the afternoon and that type of thing. One thing that I found that causes dentists to run behind in their schedule is you're running along perfect day scheduling and all of a sudden you find out that this tooth needs endo. I'm going to have to do a root canal. Well, now you're behind and you're behind 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you're behind on going to do your hygiene checks and you're behind. And when do you catch up? You catch up during lunch. And so all the teams working through lunch. And when I'm telling this story to our teams and doctors are there, I just watch everybody's heads nod.
Yeah, we're all nodding.
Yeah, an afternoon. And then what you end up with is patients in the back, or not in the back, patients up front in the waiting room. Well, I had an appointment 20 minutes ago, and they're getting upset. And I had 1:15, and hygiene is waiting. I got 3 hygienists waiting outside my door, going,
tapping their foot.
Tapping their foot. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a better way of scheduling. And I started scheduling based on productivity back 25 years ago. It changes everything. And what I tell people, if you'll just do 2 things, you can increase your productivity significantly. One is learn to communicate, learn to share and visit with your patients, ask them questions about themselves. I don't like working on anybody that I don't know, that I don't consider as my friend, because once I've gotten to know them, I feel great. And then the second thing is learn the concept of scheduling to productivity, not to time. And it's a very, very counterintuitive way of scheduling. But what I can tell you is over the years, we've had thousands of dentists come through Productive Dentist Academy. When they pick up that and they learn it, and the team learns it because the team drives the schedule, not me, all of a sudden productivity skyrockets. And when I say skyrockets, the average dentist in the US is producing about 425. You guys have better information about that. 425, your docs, but 425 an hour, which is about $3,400 a day.
Yeah.
My question is always, well, what do you guys do the rest of the day? Because at $3,400, I mean, I'd have a tea time every day at 11 o'clock. I'm just done. I wouldn't even schedule afternoons if that was what I was doing. And it really becomes dentists are kind of, we're our own worst enemy because how long does it take to do a crown? Well, you can ask that question. What the truth is, how much time do I have to do it? Because dentists are master piddlers. We love to jack around with stuff. Yes. And so if you give me 2 hours to do a crown, I'll sit and talk and visit and prep a little and
make it art. Yep.
Yeah. And when the truth is, productivity is really not about speed. It's really about scheduling and communicating when you're doing comprehensive exams. So when we schedule, again, very counterintuitive. I'm going to use an example. Let's say you have a goal of $500 an hour that you're, as a dentist, you're trying to go from 425 to 500, or let's say 600. Let's just say 500. So we do use blocks in our schedule. And I would have one schedule in one chair. My assistant in chair 1, Gay, my assistant in chair 2, Summer, and my assistant in chair 3 is Shannon. So they are responsible for that room. They're responsible for that chair. I actually give them a procedure code. I give them a color as if they're a producer. So I want them, not because I'm comparing them to each other. It's because I want a new patient to come in, and that new patient sees the same chairside treatment coordinator every time they come in, when possible. It doesn't always happen that way, but who builds the great relationships? I do in the initial examination, which all new patients come through me, not through hygiene. And what we found is 28% increase in productivity when they come through the doctor, which is pretty significant. Plus, it also allows us to stay on schedule, because if I come in to see a new patient in your chair, well, I might be in there for 45 minutes. Now your patients are running behind, and it's just not conducive to being productive. It's not conducive to running a successful business. And so what we do, we have let's say it's $500 an hour, and we'll have blocks in chair 1, Gay's chair, and we'll have some blocks in Summer's chair. Shannon doesn't have any blocks. She's what I call an unproductive chair. What does that mean? Oh, it's very productive, but we're not putting in new things in there. It's mainly seating this, or putting in bleaching trays or whatever it is. We try to have
overflow.
One every hour that are scheduled, need post-op, whatever it is. But those 2 chairs are for production. And so in a 2-hour slot, and you have a goal of 500, your goal obviously is to put $1,000 in there. And that might be 1 crown. It depends on if you're involved with PPOs or if you're fee for service or whatever, but that may be 1 crown. That's great. You got 2 hours to do a crown. But what if there's 3 crowns? What if let's just say you're charging $1,000, and this is really counterintuitive. But what if you had 4 crowns at $1,000 each? That's $4,000. You have a goal of $500 an hour for the 8 hours you're working today. So actually, how much time would you schedule that block for in chair 1 in Gay's chair? People go, well, I know I asked the question, how long does it take you to do the crown? And people will say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45. I've had every number. But then they say, well, I say, well, how much time are you going to schedule? And they'll go 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. The truth is, if you want to follow scheduling to productivity, what you've done with one patient and 4 crowns, you've just reached your goal for the day. Now, what would I do with that block? I expand the block all the way down for the whole day. Now, I have people say, well, are you really going to, are you going to have the patient sit there all day? I go, no, we're not going to have the patient sit there. Well, what does your team do? What does your team, what does Gay do the rest of the day? Well, Gay does the things that Gay needs to do that no one else ever gets to do in other dental practices because you're running behind all day. He actually calls new patients that didn't schedule. She's doing supply ordering. She's doing things. My chairside treatment coordinators, they confirm their own appointments, not the front desk. Why? Because Gay has the relationship with the patient.
It gives your assistants so much responsibility, and also what's the word I'm looking for? They have like a buy-in, I guess, to the patients. Yeah. And I'm sure that when it's run like that, it's a lot harder. You'll have less turnover, I would imagine, because they love the patients just like you do.
They do. It's extremely important. The other cool thing is I look at, and I'm using that as an example. It's kind of an exaggerated example, but what do you put in the rest? What does Summer put in her chairs? What does Shannon? That's all increased productivity. I already reached my goal of 500 an hour because that's my goal.
Yeah.
And I wrote a series of 5 articles for dental economics a few years ago. It was called the Dental Roller Coaster. Dentists have great month one month, then a bad month the next, and a great month, and a bad month, and a great month. What we find is when we have a great month, we have a tendency to go spend money because we think we're rich. And then the next month, the lab bills come in, and so now we're broke. And it's just not, to me, conducive to enjoyment of dentistry. And what I love is consistent productivity, consistent scheduling and production, so that I know that at the end of the month, because we run our business as a business, we actually have we actually have budget to actual on every item we spend in the office. Well, how do you do that? Well, and I've asked doctors, well over 1,000 docs. We've only had about 6 that actually run their business as a real true business. They just end up seeing whoever calls up, and they just hope. I always joke, how are most patients scheduled? They call the front desk, said, I'd like an appointment back with the doctor to get my work done. And they just take a dart and they just throw it into the schedule and say, how about Wednesday at 3? There is no intentional activity to scheduling. And this is 90% of the dental practices. That's why they're only doing $3,200 a day, because they just don't get that one deal. Learn to communicate first, but then learn to schedule properly, not you as the doc, but have your team with an understanding of that. Your front office. I'll give you a good example. Let's say we are reaching our goals every day. My favorite month is when I look at the month ahead and I'm already at goal for the month. And you would think that, wow, that's crazy. No, it happens month in, month out. It's planned that way. And so I was going to say something, but I can't remember what I was going to say until I got off on that tangent. But
You're good.
Anyway, it's super important. If a patient calls up, says, I want to get my treatment done, what our front office, what they're going to say is they're going to talk to patients and say, okay, well, let me set you up with Summer. And how does 3 o'clock, and she's thinking now approximately 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And the patient says, yes, that'd be great. Now, let me tell you, I want Summer to confirm this, that there's plenty of time to do it. And if there's an issue, Summer's going to give you a call, and she may reschedule that to a different time where she needs more time. Well, the patient goes, oh, okay, that's fine. In other words, you've just educated and taught the patient what you wanted them to hear. Summer looks at it and says, that's perfect. That fits perfect. She goes up, tells front office, great. Because what the front office does is they send back a little private message that says, ding, I just put Mary in here at this spot. If it's, please let me know. And not even let me know, but Summer's job is then to say, yes, no, I need to change it. And Summer will do the changing, not the front office. Summer does. Why? Because our schedule is so consistent. We rarely run behind at lunch. In fact, I would say 95% of the time we run on schedule. At the end
Mhm.
of the day, I'm usually home by 10 to 5. I'm supposed to end at 5, whereas most dental practices are open till 6, 6:30, try to catch up for the
Yeah.
rest of the day. Our dentists that have been through Productive Dentist Academy over the years, and I know you guys have tracked tons of
Mhm.
our doctors and their numbers, but I mean, it is the way to absolutely blow productivity out of the water. We have a lot of docs that are doing, gosh, $1,000, $1,500 an hour. So they're doing 10, 12, $15,000 a day, much better than doing 3,200. But it's not about money. We get to help people, more people, because we're producing more, and we're doing it at a relaxed pace.
Yeah.
And my hygienists aren't waiting for checks. We have 5 hygienists. They're not waiting because I have time to do the things I need to do.
Mhm.
And that type of scheduling the productivity is the thing that makes all the difference.
Yeah. It sounds like it really, I love that. I- It also just makes, as far as like team, because that's kind of where my mind always goes, because my
Yeah.
background is in like team training and team like communication, and just like being able to hand off to the assistant who's actually going to be doing the work with the doctor and saying, does
Mhm.
this work? And if it doesn't, make it work for your schedule. I realize that that puts a lot more effort on the assistant, but if you're not always running behind, A, she has time to do that, but B, like, there's no more griping between the back office and the front office saying, why did you just put that in there?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how many times I've thought, if you put one more thing on my schedule, I'm going to make you come back and assist for me.
That's right. That's right. I call that the Israeli-Palestinian issue. I don't know if there's a
Yeah.
solution, but that's the front versus the back. We have, in 23 years, 24 years that we've been doing it this way, and I started having my team in the back actually confirming their own appointments and having this communication between the front and the back. We have
Mhm.
had no more front versus the back issues, and
Yeah.
that is huge. I mean, I remember 30 years ago pulling one assistant off of somebody. I mean, it literally was it's
Yeah.
stressful, and when
Yeah.
you're stressed, what ends up happening is you become non-productive,
And
and
then the front office has an
that's
opportunity to do things that they actually need to have time for, which is
right.
insurance and collections and treatment
Sure.
and, getting things paid for.
And getting to visit with patients and talk to them
Yeah.
and enjoying the day and not being behind and
Yeah.
those are the things that make a practice productive or not productive, and
Yeah.
I've seen it across the board all
So
types.
talk to me a little bit about, because I'm so intrigued. I mean, we kind of, I've worked this way before, but not fully. So I'm intrigued because I'm thinking about my practice that I grew up in with the associates. I would imagine this helps a lot as well.
Ah,
Talk a little bit about bringing on, like, if you're thinking about bringing on a dentist and doing this with
right.
them.
Well, I mean, what they see is that, first of all, this is not a high stress office. It's a high producing office, but it's not high stress at all. Dentists who have been in other situations, then you end up bringing an associate in, they just go, oh my gosh, how do you guys do this? And I want to learn exactly how you do it. And we teach them the exact same principles, the exact same exam process, which we do a comprehensive exam on every patient.
Mm.
Uh, in our hygiene department, every patient's been diagnosed. I call that my hygiene annuity. So I've got 5 hygienists. We have over 600,000 going through the office every month in diagnosed treatment that's just waiting to say yes. Do I feel bad about that? Well, no, they decided not to do it right then. So when I go in a hygiene check, I might just say, how are things looking, Katie? You know, might say, well, I think we're ready to do these bottom 2. Say, I'm concerned about these bottom 2. And I'll look at the patient and I'll say, George, it's time, buddy. We've been watching this for 2 years. And they
Yeah.
go, okay, I know, doc. And
Hmm.
my whole hygiene exam is literally 2 minutes. No, never more than 2 minutes. And usually it's saying hello, high-fiving the patient, and then talking to the hygienist and saying, well, how are things looking?
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as an associate, when the associate sees that, guess what? They're not just producing, $4.25 an hour. Pretty soon they're producing 5, 6, 7, $800 an hour, like they can. It's not about speed. It literally is having the patience and having the time to do the treatment that you want to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
and I would imagine it gives them like a feeling of comfort knowing that like, okay, I know that I can do, I'm gonna do, you know, because they aren't very fast when they first
no,
get out.
no,
And so if you're scheduling based off of production, then if you you're gonna only do
yes,
two fillings in the first, whatever, then that's how
yep.
long you get. Yeah.
And
So do you
I
give them a
help
little bit
them.
more time?
Yeah, I mean, I help them set their goals.
Yeah.
We would never go in and say, "Hey, let's get you up at 800 an hour. Let's do that today." No,
Yeah.
we'll start out at 250.
Mm,
If they have no experience,
yeah.
some, and then you kind of guide them over the next few months and see how they're doing. But we'll never raise goals more than like $50 in a month. But
Hmm.
$50 in a month is maybe doing an extra occlusal guard during the day or doing, I mean, at $50
Hmm.
is not very much as far as increased production. And so we look at all the little things. I call them the pearls of being productive. They're just
Yeah.
little teeny things that happen during the day, but everybody's keyed in and tuned into them. So it allows you to produce. I mean, I put down the clinical handpiece a couple of years ago, but when I ended my career, I was producing over 4,000 an hour. So I was doing over $30,000 a day.
Wow.
I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that
Hmm.
it can be done. Now, your service mix is interesting. I do a lot of implants, so a lot of big
Yeah.
cases. I market to train wrecks, so because I want to do these big cases. But any dentist can increase their productivity and have more time to spend with patients and take better care of patients, because those are my only two goals that I have in practice. One is to take great care of the patient. That's primary. Number two is to reach my goal, whatever it is. And when I'm reaching my goals and my whole office is hygiene, associates, what we have is a set number that I know I can run my business on. And
Hmm.
because we all reach our goals, or at least that's our intention.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I have one other question before we ask our last question, which I ask everyone, but I want, and as you were talking, I was thinking of the practices that, well, I guess, what advice would you give to those that they are full, like they don't have room in their schedule to make a change or to, you know what I mean? Like these people that are like, I don't
well,
have this problem. I don't know where to put people,
yeah, and they're
like,
producing 400 an hour,
yeah.
which is I sit there and I step back, and I had a dentist that was came to the program. This has been probably 12 years ago, and very well-known dentist. He's out there, everybody knows him, but he said, I can't do this. I'm booked. And this was a September program. He says, I'm actually booked until January.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise. I've heard lots of people say
And,
this.
and I went, really? I said, okay. And he was doing about 300 an hour, 325 an hour.
He's working
I,
really hard.
I asked him, do you ever run behind? Oh yeah, every day. I'm just so swamped. I have so many people. I said, okay, well, let's run your schedule off. So we printed off his schedule, and at lunch during the seminar, I sat down and I looked at his schedule, and sure enough, that sucker was full until January. And I went, okay, well, let's do this. Let's have a blank schedule. Let's move this patient from here to here. Okay, that's good. Let's move this one from here to here. Let's move this one from here to here. Now you're doing 1,000 an hour. And he looked at me and I said, and now let's do the next day. Let's move this one to here. The one 2 weeks from now, let's move them to here. Let's move this to here. You're doing 1,000 now. And he was like, well, you can't just move people around. I said, dude, I said, it's your business. You can do whatever the hell you want
Hmm.
because it's your business. And he was like, oh, well, he tripled his productivity in a matter of, I don't know, 3 weeks or 4 weeks. The team has to understand it, because what they were doing, they were using a dart and a
Yeah.
schedule and slamming people in. So
Hmm.
I can look at any schedule and I guarantee you I can triple your production.
Wow.
Just simple. I don't care how slam packed you are. It doesn't matter. In fact, that's the stressful office that people hate dentistry about.
Hmm.
They go, how do you love oh, I make pretty good money, but I'm just running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I
Yeah.
decided 35 years ago, I didn't want to run around like a chicken with my head cut off. Now I did for a good bit of my career, but I decided, hey, this is not conducive to a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we just changed it.
Yeah, really good. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people taking furious notes. So I know that I am, and I'm not even a producing dentist, but I would be like, okay, I am doing this instead. Well, so we asked the same question to every single, that was a fast half an hour for me. I could have you, we'll have you on again. That was really
Okay,
great. We asked the same question to every single person that comes on the show because growth means a lot to us here at Dental Intelligence, and it means something
absolutely.
different to everyone. So, what does growth in dentistry mean to you?
It's not really about production. That's something that we teach at Productive Dentist Academy. But growth to me is the growth of enjoyment, of enjoying dentistry, of enjoying new technology, new techniques, printing technology that's out there now. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that's enjoyment, that's growth. And I always joke that I'm a better dentist this year than I was last year. And last year I was better than I was the year before. And that's been my goal even since I put the handpiece down. It's still my goal. I still go to CE. I still want to learn because I love dentistry. And so that's what I would say is just embracing the new technology, the new things that are going on in dentistry, and the enjoyment of growth to me is having a healthy, growing practice that you're constantly getting to help new people. And so
Awesome.
I love dentistry. I do.
Yeah, well, we can tell. It's been such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie.
This has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Again, special thanks to our guest. Dr. Baird, how can they find you if they want to?
Well, we just wrote a book called Legendary Leadership. And
Okay.
if you're interested in having that, it's actually on Amazon. And you can also go to productivedentist.com. That is our company there that helps doctors increase productivity and increase communication skills. And if you have just a single question for me or multiple questions, Bruce at productivedentist.com.
Okay.
And those are pretty much the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, perfect. For those of you that are writing, stop trying to type it on your or driving. Stop typing. I'll put it in the show notes. Okay,
Right,
thank you.
right.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our marketing department for all their work on this podcast. I'm Katie Polson. Keep growing.